Your fish already knows your face, not suspects, not guesses, knows. And if you do one specific thing every morning for the next 7 days, you can make that recognition so strong that your fish will rush to the glass the moment you walk into the room and ignore everyone else. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that, day by day, using what researchers now know about fish memory, fish mood, and something called cognitive bias that most aquarium owners have never heard of. And one of these 7 steps is going to completely change how you think about what's happening inside that tank. Let's start with the one that surprised researchers the most. Day 1. Become a visual signature, not just a silhouette. Here's what most people don't realize. When you stand in front of your tank, your fish isn't just seeing a large thing. It's scanning for specific visual patterns, color, shape, and movement, and deciding whether those patterns mean something worth responding to. And we know this because of a remarkable experiment with wild sea bream in the Mediterranean. Researchers had one diver wear a red vest and feed the fish consistently over 12 days. Another diver was present but never fed them. By the end, the fish followed the feeding diver specifically, not the other one. And when both divers switched to plain gear, the fish got confused and couldn't tell them apart anymore. The recognition wasn't about the person, it was about the consistent visual pattern the person presented. So on day 1, your job is to become a visual signature. Wear the same color top every morning when you approach the tank. Stand in the same spot. Move at the same pace. You're not just feeding your fish, you're giving your fish something to lock onto. A repeatable pattern that says, this specific presence equals good things. Your fish's brain is already looking for that pattern. You just have to give it something consistent to work with. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because it's not just about what you're wearing. Day 2. Use your face consciously. Archerfish, those remarkable spitting fish from Southeast Asia, were trained in a lab to spit at a specific human face out of 44 different images shown to them on a screen, 44 faces, and they got it right more than 80% of the time. What's extraordinary is that when researchers then showed those same faces in black and white, or rotated them up to 90 degrees, the fish still recognized them. They had locked onto subtle facial features, the specific geometry of one face, and stored it well enough to generalize across different viewing angles. This tells you something important about day 2. When you approach your tank, lean in at the same angle every morning. Let your face be visible. Don't look down at your phone while you're there. Make eye contact with the glass. You might feel a little silly doing it, but what you're actually doing is giving your fish a consistent facial pattern to associate with the reward that's coming. Over time, your face becomes part of the owner's signature your fish is building in its memory. And unlike what you may have heard, that memory does not reset in 3 seconds. The archerfish remembered those faces across multiple sessions. The 3-second memory myth is simply wrong, and these experiments prove it. So your fish knows your color, and it knows your face. But what about the moment before you even get to the tank? Day 3. Make your entrance a cue, not a coincidence. There's a concept in fish cognition research that changes how you think about your entire morning routine. When researchers studied how aquarium and pond fish respond to familiar humans, they found something fascinating. Fish didn't just respond to the sight of a person. They responded to repeatable cues that predicted that person. Footsteps approaching, a particular voice, the sound of a specific door. The fish had learned to anticipate the event before it happened. Think about what that means for you. Your fish may already be responding to the sound of your footsteps before you reach the tank. The creak of the floorboard, the way you turn on the light. These aren't random stimuli to your fish. They're the opening notes of a sequence it has learned to associate with you. On day 3, make that sequence deliberate. Same time every morning, same path to the tank. If you hum or say something quietly when you arrive, even just a soft "good morning," do it the same way every day. You're layering sound on top of vision, building a multi-sensory owner signature that your fish can recognize from multiple angles. And the more consistent that signature is, the faster and more reliably your fish will encode it. Now, before we get to the one that's genuinely going to change how you manage your fish's mood, let me ask you to do one small thing. If you're finding this useful, take 2 seconds and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more fish owners who have no idea what's actually going on inside their tank. Okay, back to the science. Day 4, train your fish's optimism. This one sounds strange, but stay with me because it's backed by some of the most compelling behavioral research done on fish in the last decade. Researchers working with 3-spined sticklebacks and zebrafish discovered something called cognitive bias, or judgment bias, in fish. Here's how it works. You train a fish to associate one cue with a reward and another cue with nothing. Then you show the fish an ambiguous cue, right in the middle. How quickly the fish approaches that ambiguous cue tells you something about its internal emotional state. Fish in a positive state approach it quickly, as if expecting good things. Fish in a negative state hesitate or avoid it, as if expecting nothing. And here's the part that matters for you. The research showed that a consistent, reliable reward history, meaning the same person at the same time, always bringing food, pushed fish toward the optimistic end of that scale. Your fish starts to interpret your presence itself as a positive signal even before food appears. You become an ambiguous cue that your fish decodes as probably good. But the opposite is also true. Sticklebacks that experienced unpredictable or confusing social situations shifted toward pessimism. They stopped responding to new cues with curiosity. They became cautious and withdrawn. So on day 4, the rule is simple. Do not miss your morning visit. Do not sometimes feed, sometimes not feed. Reliability is not just a training trick. It is literally shaping your fish's emotional state. You are building a fish that leans toward optimism when it sees you, and an optimistic fish learns faster. This is the one that most people don't expect. Day 5. Understand that your mood spreads through the water. There's a study published in Science that fundamentally changed how researchers think about fish emotions. Zebrafish, when placed near stressed shoal mates, began mirroring their fear, becoming immobile, clustering together, showing all the behavioral signs of a frightened fish. But when researchers blocked oxytocin signaling in those fish, the fear contagion stopped. The calm fish no longer copied the panic of the stressed ones. This revealed a conserved biochemical pathway, the same oxytocin system that underlies empathy in mammals, operating in fish. What this means for you is both surprising and actionable. When you approach your tank with tense, jerky movements, when you're stressed and rushing through your morning routine, you are not a neutral presence at the glass. Your movements carry emotional information that your fish can read and respond to. A tense, unpredictable human can shift the entire mood of a tank, and a calmer, more exploratory tank is a tank that learns to recognize you faster. On day 5, slow down when you approach. Move deliberately. Take a breath before you get there. You're not performing calm for your fish. You're actually spreading it. The fish that feels safe in your presence is the fish that will rush to the glass to meet you. And familiarity changes how quickly that calm spreads. The more your fish knows you, the faster your presence settles the tank rather than disturbing it. Day 6. Test whether your fish is tracking you or just the food. By day 6, something has shifted. Your fish has been building a memory of you, your color, your face, your footsteps, your timing. And now it's time to find out whether that memory is about you or just about the food you carry. Here's a simple test rooted in the archerfish rotation experiments. Approach the tank at a slightly different angle than usual. Stand a foot to the left of where you normally stand. Don't bring food yet. Just be present. Watch what happens. If your fish moves towards you, tracks your position, orients toward your face, that is recognition behavior. That is your fish responding to you as an individual, not to the food stimulus. This is exactly what the archerfish demonstrated when they recognized faces rotated 30 to 90 degrees from the training angle. Once a fish has genuinely learned a visual pattern, it can generalize across small variations. It's not locked to one exact position. It's locked to you. If your fish doesn't respond yet, that's okay. It means you keep the morning routine consistent for a few more days. The memory is building. The recognition is coming. But if your fish does track you, if it moves toward the glass when you arrive without food, you've just witnessed something that most aquarium owners never think to look for. You've seen your fish choose you. And now here's the one that's going to stick with you. Day 7. Become your fish's preferred individual. In a study on convict cichlids, a monogamous fish species that forms genuine pair bonds, researchers found that females paired with preferred mates showed something remarkable in their behavior tests. They were more optimistic. They performed better. They responded to ambiguous cues with more confidence and curiosity, and females stuck with non-preferred partners shifted toward pessimism, checking ambiguous boxes more slowly, withdrawing, becoming less engaged with their environment. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable behavioral and emotional change based on who the fish is socially paired with. And what it tells us is that fish don't just recognize individuals, they form preferences. They have something that functions like a social bond, and that bond affects their entire emotional state. What you have been doing over these 7 days is not just training a recognition response. You have been becoming your fish's preferred individual, the one associated with safety, with calm, with consistent reward, the one whose color, face, footsteps, and voice have been woven into a memory structure that your fish carries. And in the wild diver experiments, the sea bream didn't just follow the feeding diver because of habit. They preferred her. They approached her specifically, even when another diver was present. That is what you are building, not a conditioned reflex, a relationship. Damselfish and other species have been shown to retain visual memories of familiar individuals and change their behavior based on those memories, treating known individuals differently than strangers, adjusting their responses based on history. Your fish is doing the same thing with you. Every morning, visit you've made this week has been deposited into a memory that is richer and more layered than most people ever imagined fish are capable of. So here's the full picture. Day 1, you gave your fish a visual signature to lock onto. Day 2, you made your face a recognizable feature, not just a blur. Day 3, you turned your entrance into a cue your fish could anticipate. Day 4, you built your fish's optimism through consistent, reliable presence. Day 5, you learned that your mood travels through the glass and chose to bring calm instead of chaos. Day 6, you tested whether your fish was tracking you and not just the food. And Day 7, you understood what you were actually building, not a trained animal, but a preferred individual in your fish's social world. You're not just keeping a fish. You're sharing a space with a creature that has memory, mood, a sense of familiarity, and something that functions very much like preference and trust. And it's been studying you just as carefully as you've been studying it. If this changed how you see your tank, subscribe, because there is so much more of this kind of science to explore together. And if you want to go deeper into what your fish is actually feeling day to day, the next video is waiting for you right now.